Hi, this is Holly Bilicki, another day with beauty wisdom, where we are collecting more nuggets just for you. Today we are joined with Kimberly Krieger, excuse me. She's an author, speaker, and coach. Her mission is to help women see their true value and reach their God-given potential through all of her endeavors. Welcome, Kimberly.
Thank you for having me, Holly.
So, your story is so interesting. Could you please share? I understand that you were running your first half a marathon and you were hit by a car. I mean,
Yes.
wow.
Yeah. Yeah, we were on vacation, my husband and I in Florida, and I got up early to do, whatever, a few miles. I think I was going to do 5 that day.
Mhm.
And I didn't make it to 1 full mile. I was crossing an intersection and got hit by a car. So, yeah.
So, were you doing coaching prior to this?
Yes. Yeah, the accident happened in 2014 in October.
Okay.
And I had been coaching and speaking for about 3 years at that point.
Mhm.
So, it was a life-changing moment. I went to Florida to have fun, and I came home really, really a lot later than I planned to come home in a wheelchair. So, yeah.
What got you into, did you wake up one day and say, I want to coach women? Like, how did all this start developing for you?
Yeah, so it's interesting because I've really been I'll say a natural coach most of my life.
Mhm.
I like to encourage people. I love to teach. I love to strategize. And during my motherhood journey and my family journey, I have 12 children. I don't know if you read that in my bio.
I did.
That's usually the first question I get is that true?
That's why I didn't ask that. I would save that for a second.
Okay, yeah. So, but it was really my motherhood journey that was the catalyst for becoming a coach. And not because I spent time coaching my kids, because I think parents do that naturally, but it was really my struggles as a mom. When my kids hit their teen years, I was like, what I'm doing is not working. And I just felt frustrated. I was an angry mom. I loved my kids. You don't have that many kids because you don't like kids, right?
Right.
You know,
I would hope
so
not. Yeah.
no. And so I love my kids, and I know that that's not coming through because I'm frustrated all the time. And to make matters a little more complicated, my husband at the time really struggled with chemical addiction. So
Mm.
we had addiction issues, codependency issues, teenage issues, and then everything in between. So I went and sought some help for myself, and I was guided toward parenting with love and logic. And this was my first introduction into like learning new skills and tools for living. Like there's actually stuff out there that can help you live a better life. And I was always a person of faith, but I mean, I got some really practical teaching on how to handle arguments, how to deal with strong-willed kids. And what I discovered was I was changing. The strong-willed kids weren't changing. The husband wasn't changing, but
Yeah.
I was changing. And that excited me so much that, I started to share that. And that's just me. Like when I love something, I share it. I don't keep it to myself.
Mhm.
And so I started to actually facilitate those classes. And in so doing, people started to ask me if I would meet with them.
Mhm.
Can we have coffee? Will you talk to my friend? Can I have this person call you? They really need help.
Mhm.
And because I have such a strong desire to help, it was like, yeah, if I can help, I'll help. So, fast forward about 5 years after that, I started to hear about this life coaching thing, like the Midwest was a little behind the times on it, but eventually it showed up. And I thought it was really intriguing. It was intimidating also to me because the term life coach makes it sound like you're an expert on life.
Right.
Right. And I did not like that. I'm like, I don't want anybody thinking that I'm an expert on life ever. Even if I think I am, I don't want other people thinking that because that just raises the bar way too high. But I did some homework and research on it, and I took this online evaluation, and the results of my eval were you are already doing it and just not getting paid for it. So I was like, all right, well, then the obvious next step is to turn this into a business because I love helping people.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I did.
Wow. So having 12 children, what have you learned from that?
Oh, do you have all year? I mean, I say often that the best, or I guess God's idea of a personal development course for me was motherhood.
Um,
I mean, I learned leadership. I learned diplomacy. I learned the art of negotiation. I learned what love is and isn't. I learned to say no. I learned empathy. It was truly character training for me. And so, a lot of times in life, we can have a desire and we can even have a love for the person or the thing, but not have the character that matches. And that's where we get in trouble, right? And that's where I found myself. Like, I have this huge vision for my kids and I have a huge heart for them, but my character doesn't match that. And by character, I mean, I didn't have the patience. I didn't have the wisdom. It takes a lot of wisdom to be a parent. It's just, there's a lot of tough decisions to be made for their future. And, one thing I did do from early on is I made my decisions with their future in mind. But, I often say to people, you need the right tools for every job. And so a lot of times I was trying to, make eggs, so to speak, with tools from the garage. So
yeah.
with a hammer, and guess what happens when you try to crack an egg with a hammer? That kind of describes my scenario pretty well.
Okay.
So that I've learned everything, from motherhood. My faith roots had to go way deep. My self-study had to go deep, and my humility had to go deep. Because when you're a parent, you just think you're the right one. I'm right because I'm the parent.
Sure.
Hey, kid, you're 8. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm automatically right because you're 8.
Right.
But, with a little humility and wisdom, you realize I still have things to learn, and I make mistakes too. And my kids need to see me model that I'm growing and that I'm admitting when I'm wrong, and that I'm willing to say that was kind of a bad choice for me. And a lot of parents think if I do that, they're not going to listen to me. Wrong.
Right.
If you do that, they're going to not only listen to you more readily, they're going to learn from you because they're going to have more respect for you, and kids who don't respect adults don't learn from them.
It's a very good point. Very good point.
Yeah, it's huge. So I worked on respect for a long time, just that one thing in my home because we didn't have a lot of it. So for a whole year, I had one goal for my character and my parenting development, and it was to be a respectful person. That meant I wasn't going to engage in arguments. I wasn't, going to yell unless like someone's in front of a semi. And I was going to use my new skills and tools that I learned to stay calm. I was going to, if I didn't know what to do as a mom, instead of freaking out, I was going to delay the consequence or delay the decision, buy some time so I could get my head on straight, start making some choices that were thought out and not just reactions. And I worked on that for a whole year before I worked on anything else. Yeah, it was huge. And I didn't know if it was working. And I'll tell you, the day I've discovered it is working, this day goes down in the history of my family. I tell this story a lot because it was so profound, and it's profound for you and your listeners or viewers if they're parents. This is a lesson that every parent needs to know. One day my son said, "Hey mom, can I go somewhere with a friend?" He's a teen. And I said, "Oh gosh, you know what? I'm going to have a good night tonight." And he's like, "Yeah, what does that have to do with me going with my friend?" And I said, "Well, last night you didn't come home in time. And therefore I didn't have a very good night because I worried about you." I said, "So I decided for the rest of this weekend, I'm going to have a good time. And the way I have a good time is by not having to worry. So you're going to stay here so I don't have to worry."
Beautiful.
And, that's my way of saying, hey, it's not grounding, but your actions affect people. So anyway, mom, I promise I'll be home in time. And you can even call so-and-so. And they, they begin the art of negotiation on their part. And I said, no, I've already made my decision. I'm going to be having a good night because you'll be here. And he argued a little bit more. And I just said, I love you too much to argue about this. And he then said, he just got really frustrated. And he goes, Mom, why can't you just ground us and yell at us again? And that was my reaction. Your face summed it up. I was like, why? Here I am thinking I'm giving my children a gift by staying calm and not engaging in disputes. Like, don't you love this? I love this. Don't you love this? And he's going, no, we hate it. And so I said, why? You have to tell me, help me understand why you would want a yelling, screaming, grounding mother, again. And he said, and this is the key. He said, because Mom, when you yelled at us, we got to yell back.
Wow.
Yeah. And then he went on to say this, and we got to say things that felt really good, and we don't get to say those things anymore.
Wow. How old is he? Or how old was he when this happened?
He was 14, and he's 24 now. And I'll tell you what, bragging mom moment, he is now the Wisconsin Soldier of the Year. He won the competition in the Army, the Wisconsin Division of the U.S. Army. And that's how determined he is. That was an incredible competition against the other soldiers in the state, 12 different things they had to do. And my son is just like so determined. And one of the reasons I was frustrated as a mom is because he would never let up on trying to get his way. And, and I see that incredible perseverance now, which is a blessing in his life. But at the time it was driving me nuts. Me learning to disengage with him was saving my sanity. But in this moment when he said, we don't get to, that phrase is so key, because prior to my 1 year of, new skills, I would look him in the eye and say, don't talk to me like that. Don't say those words to me. Don't swear at me or whatever. And he would do it anyway. But then the next, phase of my motherhood journey, I stopped telling him what to do, and I changed what I did, and I changed what I would listen to. And so I no longer would listen to that. I'd leave the room, or I'd ask him to. And that translated to him, my mom has raised the bar up here, so we're now no longer able to function down here. So that was huge for me to realize that in leadership, we set the bar by how we behave. Whether it's parenting, whether it's in business, what I do gives the people that I'm leading permission to do, period.
Absolutely. Yeah. Very valid point.
Yeah.
Wow. So you had mentioned you had some codependency issues. Could you expand on that?
Yeah. So, being married to someone with an addiction, and not understanding addiction, didn't understand codependency. I just knew I was frustrated, and I felt powerless. I went through, back and forth between like rescuing him and resenting him, and just hoping something would change. A lot of kind of false hopes. And like I said, I went and sought help for myself because I was just feeling buried by the pressure of all these problems I couldn't solve. And, I often say I went to a counselor and said, you got to help me help these people in my house. Oh my gosh, do they need help? And so that shows you how codependent I was, because I'm like, help me help them.
Yeah. Well, you're saying it from a loving place,
Yeah, right. But my focus being on changing them.
Right.
And so she's like, let's talk about you. And I was like, okay, I have no idea. She's just brilliant. And she knows that that's not going to be the place of victory for me, trying to help other people fix themselves. So that was really when the lights started to come on, and I began to take responsibility for my part in the mess. And that was really owning my codependency, owning my tendency to take on other people's problems, try to solve them, try to tell them how to solve them, and try to essentially exert just enough control so that I felt comfortable in my own life. And that's really a vicious and very unproductive cycle. So yeah, I worked my way out of that, and I just got done reading Codependent No More again last month because I want to keep my skills, sharpened, but B, I talk to a lot of women who, whether they know it or not, they struggle with that cycle as well.
I'm familiar with the book.
Good. Yeah.
Awesome book.
Yeah.
So, how has that changed your family structure by you changing yourself?
Yeah. I often say that, it really changed my family heritage, because had I not made these changes and discoveries, and really it's all about developing yourself. Like wherever you are in life, if you're not working on personal development, spiritual development, even health and wellness, if you're not living an extraordinary life in all areas, you're just going to, whatever you're doing, you're going to perpetuate in your family heritage. So if I stayed a victim and powerless, that would have been the heritage I left my children.
Wait, can you repeat that?
If I stayed
Very important, everybody.
Yeah, if I stayed a victim and I stayed powerless, that would have been the heritage I left my children and grandchildren, unless somebody stopped it, right? And so I didn't know at first how impactful the changes were going to be, but now I have, as I said, 12 kids. Of my 12, 7 of them are adults. And I have watched them navigate relationships, and particularly with their dad, who is not yet sober. And so they're still dealing with, their own codependency issues that they did learn from the best. I often tell them, you learned from the best, all of you, your mom and dad taught you. But what I couldn't believe and just astounded me is that the changes I started making when my oldest was 16, my oldest 3 were teens when I began working on myself. I can't believe how quickly they've followed after my example. Like they really do what you do, not what you say. Right. And so when I changed what I did, I saw them empowered. I saw my daughter setting boundaries with her dad, with her boyfriend. I see them practicing self-care and saying, you know what, this is stressful for me. I need to figure out how to disengage from it and take care of my own heart and emotions. And I see them putting little boundaries on each other, on their siblings. I think of my daughter who, when she was 17, and she was my really, like, one of those people, really sweet, who always said yes as a teen. And as a kid, she never wanted to say no. She was non-confrontational, very compliant. And she would say yes, yes, yes to her siblings. And I remember one day, one of them said, Kelsey, will you take me to the store and buy me some candy? Because that answer would always be yes, And this particular day, she looked at her sibling and said, I take kids to the store and buy them candy when they don't steal from my bedroom when I'm not home. And I was like, oh my gosh, she just set a limit.
Yeah.
This young 17-year-old girl who never said no, just said no. And she said it in such a beautiful way. And she's now 23 years old. She graduated from college. She studied abroad. She says no. I mean, this girl has boundaries, and it's amazing to me because it wasn't in her wiring. That's all stuff that she learned and she developed because I changed how this family behaves, essentially, by changing how I behave,
So I have to ask, you had mentioned that your husband wasn't fully sober. So how does that work with you setting new boundaries and the rest of your children, if you don't mind?
I'm glad you asked. So, his ultimate decision to stay in his cycle, destructive cycle, led to our divorce. And we did separate in 2007 and get divorced. And it actually, our marriage and family ended after about 3 years of me implementing boundaries and working on myself. And he just kind of spiraled out of control. This is kind of what I call it, when I read from a new script, the play unraveled. Okay.
Yeah.
So, the other players in the play were like, hey, Kim, get up here on the stage and read your old lines. And I was like, I don't want to read those lines anymore. I'm going to read my new lines. I'm
Yeah.
not getting on that stage. In fact, I'll be in the theater next door writing a new play.
Right. Right.
And so, sometimes the people in the play are like, okay, let's write a new play. It doesn't always end the way it ended for me.
Great analogy. That's a
Yeah.
great analogy.
It is, and it's not my own. I can't take credit for it, but it's from actually a piece of literature called Alcoholism, the Merry-Go-Round Named Denial, written by a pastor from the Hazelden Treatment Center. Changed my life. I mean, it was one of the pivotal things I read that woke me up. But, and I don't want people to think, hey, if you get healthy, your marriage is going to fail. Or your loved one is going to unravel. Not necessarily. That was the whole point. The only way I was going to know if we had a shot at writing a new play is if I got the ball rolling.
Sure.
Unfortunately, he said, no, thank you. And so, I have to now be kind of a consultant to my children with him. And I can't tell them how to interact with him. I can't, the adults, the younger children, I have legal boundaries in place because that's my job as their mom. But once they turn 18, they have to figure out how to navigate this hard situation with somebody that they love. And I've watched them make some of the same mistakes I made, but it didn't take them 15 years to figure it out.
Sure.
Yeah.
So how do we live our best lives? How does one go about that?
Yeah.
What does that mean? I mean, somebody might not even know what that means.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what it means to me. Living your best life means believing, first of all, that you were created for a purpose, that you have gifts and talents and a unique set of experiences to offer the world. A lot of people share gifts, but they don't share experiences, right?
Yeah, right.
So God even weaves in your experiences, good, bad, and ugly, to be a part of that puzzle. And so living your best life is believing I have a purpose. So you got to start with that belief, because if you believe anything less, you'll never get there. And so once you believe that, then you essentially say yes to the journey, because it's not an event that you arrive at, it's a journey. And you say yes to that journey by saying yes to developing yourself, yes to developing your faith, and recognizing that, living your best life means you're tending to your profession, your finances, your health and wellness, your emotions, your spiritual state, and your relationships. And it doesn't mean all those things are perfect. It means you're tending to them. So my best life 10 years ago didn't look anything like the life I'm living today, but it was my best life then, because I was tending to all those things. I was growing, I was learning, I was on my way. And so I think, to me, if you can say I'm on the path, I said yes to this journey and I haven't quit, then I'm living my best life. I'm still moving forward.
So if somebody said, I only can handle 3 things, what would those 3 things be that you would say, okay, here's 3 nuggets, start here?
Meaning like 3 things to do or 3 areas to work on? Or...
Yeah, 3 areas to work on.
Okay.
To improve their lives.
Okay.
They're lost. They're just like on this treadmill and they can't get off. We all know people like that. And they're just like, oh, I'm so overwhelmed. I don't have enough time.
Yes. That's a great question. I would say that, it starts with a foundation of faith. It really does. So, people really need to assess. And when I have a personal coaching client, I ask them to simply assess how satisfied they are in the area of their faith. And 9 times out of 10, people, especially women, tell me, faith is important to me, but I'm not really putting any effort in there. So I say to them, that's really your foundation, because what we believe in life is what generally comes to pass. And if you're not living your best life, and I retrace your thoughts back to kind of the root thoughts, they probably sound like, that'll never happen for me. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy, right? And so our belief system, whether it's just what we believe about ourselves, or what we believe about ourselves and God, that's what's determining our actions today. So, I would encourage people, start with your faith. And then secondly, you got to move over to your mind, your thinking, because everything that we do is a result of our thoughts. A lot of times people say, hey, if you want different results, you got to change your actions. Well, that's two parts of the equation. The part that's left out there is what information is going into your head. Because what you put in your head is what you're going to act on. So if I'm rolling around a bunch of toxic thoughts and I haven't added in anything new, like, just picture, purifier. If I haven't poured any purifier in my head to dispel some of those toxic thoughts, then my actions are going to be kind of destructive. And it's just simple math. 1 + 1 = 2 and 2 + 2 = 4. We just have to decide what we want that product to be, that final answer to be. So, a lot of times people focus on habits, and that's all good, but it really needs to start with your thinking. And the third thing I would say is, if you're particularly struggling, let's say with like your eating or time management or your budget, a really easy way to get started is start tracking what you're doing. Nobody wants to do this, and I'll tell you why. I said the word tracking, and people were like, ew. Okay, I guarantee you, viewers are going, ew, why would I do that?
Accountability.
That's why, right there, that I don't want to know.
Yeah.
Okay, so that it's a God-given thing, our tendency toward denial. It's there to protect us, but sometimes it protects us from the wrong thing. It protects us from victory. Denial protects us from growth. So, to really make progress, we have to track what we're doing and face the ugly truth. And you just can't believe how motivational truth is. It's like, ew, I ate all that in one day,
Right.
But as long as we're not paying attention, ignorance is bliss.
I know.
So those would be my 3 tips. Assess your faith. Where is it, and are you satisfied with it? What do you need to do to get satisfied? Assess your thoughts. Even if you just isolate one toxic thought, replace it with a great opposite thought, and begin to meditate on that new thought. Put it on a Post-it note all over your house. Say it out loud. Say it in the car. Declare it, instead of that'll never happen for me. Really easy. That could totally happen for me. In fact, that will happen for me. I believe that is up ahead in my journey. I'm going to see the day. And then the third thing would be do some tracking on some of your, the areas that you feel it really depleted in because you're in a bad habit. So.
Oh, I love it. So what do you find are some of the biggest challenges that people come up to you with? Is there any common thread that you keep seeing over and over again?
Yep. The most common thread and the biggest obstacle anybody ever faces is themselves. Hands down. And it doesn't mean it's not because you're flawed. It's not because you're not as good as the one sitting next to you. It's never about your value or ability or intelligence or anything. It's just the way human beings are wired. We get stuck because we believe something that isn't helping us, but we don't even realize we're believing it. And so this is why life coaching is really powerful, because you can work with someone who can say, what was that just came out of your mouth?
Right.
Did I hear you just say that could never happen for me? Why do you think that? And you get to the root of some of these limiting beliefs. And so that's why the mind and the thoughts are so powerful. And if you're not working with someone to identify where some of your thinking might be faulty, or at least an obstacle to you, you might never uncover those things that are holding you back.
That's great.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I read this or if I heard this from you. We were not meant to please people. Could you expand on that?
Yeah. It's interesting because as a person of faith, I know that my life was created to serve people, but being a blessing and bringing light to people doesn't mean they're going to be pleased.
Right. That's true.
I
Yeah.
mean, if you're not sure about that, just think about motherhood.
Mm-hmm.
Being a great mom does not mean your kids are happy.
Right, right.
You know, that's the same as being a great wife, being a great friend, being a great speaker, coach. You know, you might have to uncover something or confront something, or what have you. So I guess bottom line is, if your goal in life is to please people or get their approval, first of all, I feel so bad for you, because I've lived there. Oh, what an incredibly draining pursuit that never gets you. It's like spinning your wheels. But if that's your goal in life, then you're not only not living your purpose, you're allowing all these people to dictate your purpose. So your kids are going to go, Mom, your purpose today is to remember everything I forgot. And your husband's going to say, honey, your purpose today is to do everything I don't want to do. And then your mom's going to call you and say, your purpose today is to be my garbage dump for all my problems. And, and you're going to have all these people dictating your purpose. Well, I know what my purpose is. And so I'm living in it. If that doesn't please someone, that's okay. They're entitled to an opinion. Yesterday in my monthly event, the Fellowship of Extraordinary Women, my topic was creating margin. Mm-hmm. And one of the points I shared was, you have to fight for margin in your life. And while I was talking, I just pictured this boxing ring, and there were two boxers in the ring. One was margin, like room left over for you to refill your tank, to handle the unexpected that comes along. Mm-hmm. So you're not overloaded and overextended. So there's margin with gloves on. But the other boxer, really, I believe this with all my heart, is the desire for approval from others. Yeah. And we have let the desire for approval win way too many times. Mm-hmm. That's not the life of victory. It's certainly not anyone's best life. And no woman I've spoken to who's lived that life is truly happy or content. She might be in the moment like, oh, I did this thing for this person and I feel fulfilled. And then she goes home to her 92 duties that she didn't get to because she was busy serving other people, and she's stressed and overloaded. That's not your best life.
So, in closing, where can people find you?
All right. So people can find me at my website, KimberlyJoyKrueger.com, and they can interact with me a lot of different ways. They can find me on social media, Kimberly Joy Krueger. I'm on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. LinkedIn as well. But if they want to actually hear me speak or be a part of something, all my events are listed on my website. I offer live events for few every month, the Fellowship of Extraordinary Women, and virtual events as well. I offer personal coaching, and I do speaking. So if they want me to be a speaker, they can contact me. There's lots of ways they can interact with me. And I love to hear from women every day. I live to empower them to live extraordinary lives and to tell their stories. That's what I do.
Okay. And I understand you're going to be offering our viewers a free gift. Could you expand on that?
Yes. Anyone watching is more than welcome to take me up on my offer for a complimentary coaching session. No strings attached. You can spend an hour with me. Wow. And I can help you assess your satisfaction with your life, where it is today, talk about where you'd like to go. Mm-hmm. If you have even just a particular issue that you want to talk about for an hour, you can use that session however you'd like. So I'd love it if your viewers would take me up on that. And they can do that by going to my website, mm-hmm. and clicking on the contact page and just fill out the contact form. They can tell me that they heard me here and they'd like to schedule a complimentary session.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thanks. That's beautiful.
Yeah, it's my pleasure.
Is there anything else that you'd like to add?
I would just like to encourage the viewers who are watching. I love the title. It's Beauty Wisdom, right? Mm-hmm. So, beauty really is birthed on the inside, and you get that. That's why you're doing this, and I love that you're doing this, and I love the whole message to women. And so I would really encourage women to believe, first off, to believe that wisdom and beauty is theirs for the taking. That this isn't just for special people. I believed that for many years, that there were like certain golden children God had golden childs out there, and I wasn't one of them. And no, beauty and wisdom is for every woman. And I truly believe women were created to be an answer for today's problems, but we are not an answer if we stay broken. We need to get whole. We need to have our wounds healed, and we all have them. It's not like some people don't, some people do, but we need to get them healed. We need to develop ourselves and be the answer that God made us to be. Today's our hour. This is our year, and it's time to do it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for joining us.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for having me. It was my pleasure.
All right. Well, I hope everyone has collected a handful of nuggets. Thank you.